You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
Hey everybody, Dave here. I've talked about Delete Me before, and I'm still using it because it still works. It's been a few months now, and I'm just as impressed today as I was when I signed up. Delete Me keeps finding and removing my personal information from data broker sites, and they keep me updated with detailed reports, so I know exactly what's been taken down. I'm genuinely relieved knowing my privacy isn't something I have to worry about every day. The Delete Me team handles everything. It's the set it and forget it peace of mind. And it's not just for individuals. Delete Me also offers solutions for businesses, helping companies protect their employees' personal information and reduce exposure to social engineering and phishing threats. And right now, our listeners get a special deal, 20% off your Delete Me plan. Just go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and use promo code N2K at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/N2K, code N2K. Cybersecurity warnings about possible Iranian retaliation have surged. A potential act of sabotage disrupts the NATO summit in The Hague. Canadian cybersecurity officials discover Typhoon breached a major telecom provider. The U.S. House bans WhatsApp from all government devices. APT 28 uses signal chats in phishing campaigns targeting Ukrainian government entities. A China-linked APT has built a covert network of over 1,000 compromised devices for long-term espionage. Filefix is a new variant of the well-known ClickFix method. SparkKitty targets Android and iOS users for image theft. Scammers steal $4 million from Coinbase users by posing as support staff. On today's Threat Vector, host David Moulton sits down with Tyler Shields, principal analyst at ESG, to discuss the fine line between thought leadership and echo chambers in the industry. And War Thunder gamers just can't resist state secrets. It's Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Following the U.S. bombing of Iranian nuclear sites on Saturday, cybersecurity warnings about possible Iranian retaliation have surged. Iran responded with a largely symbolic missile attack on U.S. forces in Qatar, but experts caution that digital retaliation is still likely. The Department of Homeland Security warned of possible cyber attacks and violence, while former CISA head Jen Easterly urged critical infrastructure operators to secure their systems. Though Iranian cyber capabilities are considered second-tier, they can be disruptive, using tactics like social engineering and custom malware, including tools targeting U.S. fuel systems. Hacktivist groups aligned with Iran have already ramped up online propaganda and made questionable claims of cyber attacks. Experts note that much of Iran's cyber response may be psychological warfare, but real threats remain, particularly if Iran deploys destructive malware like past wiper attacks. The current threat is as much about perception as it is about real cyber damage. A potential act of sabotage disrupted the NATO summit in The Hague after a fire damaged nearly 30 railway cables, halting train service between Amsterdam and The Hague. The blaze, early Tuesday, severely impacted transport just as over 45 world leaders were arriving. Dutch Justice Minister David Van Wiel suggested sabotage, though the source remains unclear. Around 27,000 police and military personnel were deployed for what authorities called the largest security operation in Dutch history. Pro-Russian hacktivists also claimed DDoS attacks tied to the summit. This comes amid rising concerns over Russian hybrid threats, with NATO citing recent malign activities across member states. The sabotage mirrors past incidents, including France's 2023 railway disruptions before the Olympics, as NATO warns of a growing campaign by Russia targeting Western infrastructure. Back in February of this year, Canadian cybersecurity officials discovered that Typhoon, the Chinese state-sponsored hacking group, had breached a major Canadian telecom provider. The attackers took advantage of an old Cisco vulnerability that had remained unpatched long after its discovery. Once inside, they accessed sensitive configuration files to set up a GRE tunnel likely to siphon off network traffic. This wasn't Typhoon's first move. The group had previously hit U.S. telecom giants and was already under Canadian surveillance following earlier reconnaissance activity. Yet, despite warnings, critical infrastructure remained vulnerable. Now, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity and the FBI warn that the threat is far from over. Typhoon continues to target telecoms and other sectors, focusing on edge devices like routers and VPNs. The U.S. House has banned WhatsApp from all government devices, citing concerns over data transparency, lack of stored data encryption, and potential security risks, Axios reports. The Office of Cybersecurity called the app high risk and ordered its removal from House-managed phones and computers. The move aligns with broader efforts to limit risky tech, including AI tools. WhatsApp's parent company Meta strongly disagreed, pointing to its end-to-end encryption. Approved alternatives include Microsoft Teams, Signal, and iMessage. Staffers were also warned about phishing threats. Russia-backed APT28 has been using Signal chats in phishing campaigns targeting Ukrainian government entities, delivering two newly discovered malware strains, Beard Shell and Slim Agent. While Signal itself wasn't compromised, attackers used it to send a malicious document with embedded macros that launched Covenant, a memory-resident loader. Covenant deployed Beard Shell, a C++ malware that downloads encrypted PowerShell scripts and communicates with its command and control server via IceDrive API. Beard Shell maintains persistence using Windows registry COM hijacking. Another tool, Slim Agent, captures and encrypts screenshots for exfiltration. These attacks, uncovered by CERT UA with ESET's help, reflect APT28's evolving tactics. Previously, the group exploited Wi-Fi proximity in cyber-espionage campaigns. Ukrainian officials have criticized Signal's lack of cooperation in blocking Russian abuse, a claim Signal denies. This reflects broader concerns over the messaging platform's role in modern espionage, despite its strong encryption and privacy stance. A China-linked APT, identified as UAT5918, has built a covert network of over 1,000 compromised devices, dubbed lapdogs, for long-term espionage. The group infected small office and home office routers, mainly Ruckus and Buffalo models, with a custom backdoor called Short Leash. These devices, exploited via old vulnerabilities, now serve as stealthy relay nodes. The campaign targets IT, media, and other sectors across the U.S. and Asia. Lapdogs likely began in late 2023 and appears connected, though distinct, from a larger network called Polar Edge. Security researcher Mr. Docs has introduced a new phishing technique called the Filefix attack, a browser-based variation of the well-known ClickFix method. While ClickFix relies on tricking users into executing malicious commands via the Windows Run dialog, Filefix instead abuses the file upload features in browsers. The method uses social engineering to coax users into pasting a malicious command into the File Explorer address bar, triggered through a fake file-sharing page, ultimately executing PowerShell code without the user leaving their browser. The attack cleverly masks the command behind a decoy file path and uses browser scripting to copy the payload to the clipboard. A second variation shows how launching executables via File Explorer can bypass Windows Mark of the Web protections stripping security flags from downloadable files. While simple, both variations demonstrate how social engineering can effectively drive execution, reinforcing the need for awareness and monitoring of browser-spawned system processes. Kaspersky has uncovered a spyware campaign called SparkKitty, targeting Android and iOS users primarily in Southeast Asia and China. Active since early 2024, the campaign uses fake apps, often TikTok mods or cryptocurrency tools, distributed via both official and unofficial app stores. The malware steals images from device galleries, likely to extract cryptocurrency wallet info using optical character recognition. On iOS, attackers use Apple's Enterprise program and modified open-source libraries to bypass App Store restrictions. One infected Android app had over 10,000 Google Play downloads before removal. Related malicious apps also appeared as progressive web apps tied to scams and Ponzi schemes. Kaspersky links SparkKitty to the earlier SparkCat campaign, both using image theft and OCR to harvest sensitive crypto-related data from mobile users. The malicious code was embedded directly into the apps, not via third-party SDKs. Blockchain investigator Zach XBT has exposed a scam allegedly run by Christian Neves, also known as Day 2, who stole $4 million from Coinbase users by posing as support staff. Neves and his group tricked victims into creating wallets with pre-compromised seed phrases on phishing sites. One accomplice, Paranoia, stole $240,000 from an elderly victim. Much of the stolen crypto was gambled away or laundered via Monero. Despite solid on-chain evidence, authorities have yet to charge anyone, and most of the funds are unrecoverable. Coming up after the break, David Moulton sits down with Tyler Shields from ESG to discuss the fine line between thought leadership and echo chambers in the industry, and War Thunder gamers just can't resist state secrets. Stay with us. And now, a word from our sponsor, ThreatLocker. Keeping your system secure shouldn't mean constantly reacting to threats. ThreatLocker helps you take a different approach by giving you full control over what software can run in your environment. If it's not approved, it doesn't run. Simple as that. It's a way to stop ransomware and other attacks before they start, without adding extra complexity to your day. See how ThreatLocker can help you lock down your environment at www.threatlocker.com. Compliance regulations, third-party risk, and customer security demands are all growing and changing fast. Is your manual GRC program actually slowing you down? If you've ever found yourself drowning in spreadsheets, chasing down screenshots, or wrangling manual processes just to keep your GRC program on track, you're not alone. But let's be clear, there is a better way. Vanta's trust management platform takes the headache out of governance, risk, and compliance. It automates the essentials, from internal and third-party risk to consumer trust, making your security posture stronger, yes, even helping to drive revenue. And this isn't just nice to have. According to a recent analysis from IDC, teams using Vanta saw a 129% boost in productivity. That's not a typo, that's real impact. So, if you're ready to trade in chaos for clarity, check out Vanta and bring some serious efficiency to your GRC game. Vanta, GRC, how much easier trust can be. Get started at vanta.com/cyber. On today's Threat Vector segment, host David Moulton sits down with Tyler Shields, principal analyst at ESG, to discuss the fine line between thought leadership and echo chambers.
Hi, I'm David Moulton, host of the Threat Vector podcast, where we go deep on today's biggest cybersecurity challenges and what it really takes to lead in this industry. In our newest episode, I sat down with Tyler Shields, principal analyst at ESG and former CMO, to talk about a topic that most people get wrong, but you can't afford to: how to build real trust in cybersecurity marketing. Tyler brings the heat with some brutally honest insights from his career as a hacker turned analyst turned marketer. He's seen it all, from startups that send 100,000 cold emails into the void to big name vendors that confuse echo chambers for thought leadership. If you're in cybersecurity marketing or trying to break into it, this episode is a must. It's fresh, sharp, and it might just change how you think about your role. So thought leadership, it's a word that gets thrown around quite a bit, a buzzword, if you will. We hear it all over the place, but I think it is a meaningful term done right. I've actually written a memo on it when I got here to Palo Alto on what I think is and isn't thought leadership, because a lot of things that weren't thought leadership were getting tagged as thought leadership. But I'm wondering, what does that word mean for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, right? Because you posed that question to me prior, and I had to put a little bit of thought into how I wanted to describe it, because it's not just like, well, duh, it's this, right? It's kind of a gray term, which is why you're asking the question. To me, the key thing about thought leadership is providing value to the listener. And I know that's kind of a weird way to look at it, but it's actually how I anchor all of my marketing efforts. If you provide value to the other side, the listener, the person that you're trying to reach, that's the ultimate marketing. And so when you're doing thought leadership from a marketing vantage point, it's about providing value to someone else. So thought leadership could be, simple definitions of something if the audience doesn't understand that, or it could be very deep research that pushes the boundaries and drives the market and discusses innovation and new topics. And that's where I tend to live, given my background as an R&D person. That's where I tend to live. But my view of thought leadership is about providing value to the audience that you can't really get anywhere else.
So as security professionals, we have this opportunity to say new things, but it can be scary. You're not sure how it's going to be received, if it's going to upset comms or PR teams. How do we lean into actual thought leadership rather than that echo chamber of recycled ideas?
So I think you can answer that question in a couple different ways. There's the individual version of that. As an individual person, it's about pushing boundaries and learning new things and expressing those new things as value to the audience. But then there's also the corporate version of that question, right? And I think oftentimes that forward-thinking, pushing the boundaries view can be neutered a bit by corporate risk and corporate not wanting to say thing that's going to turn off the audience or, get any kind of negative brand impact. And within reason, I don't necessarily think that's the right way to do things as a brand, right? I think, the brand marketing is about being true to yourself. And if your company is just an extremely risk-averse, stodgy old company that doesn't want to have a brand of innovation, fine, then you're never going to get that out. But I think most cyber companies want that forward-thinking brand. And so push the boundaries, right? It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to state something that may not be completely accurate. As long as you've done the research and you explain how you got there. People make mistakes. Companies make mistakes, right? And you can recover from that. Now, obviously, you can't go out there and say something that's like so horribly awful that it is irreparable to the brand. But I don't think anybody would do that anyway. So for me, I love to push the boundaries. I love companies that recognize their brand can help and back those pushes and become innovative and forward thinking. There's a couple of big companies in the market, one of which you guys work for, I think, that does a really good job of pushing that brand.
Tyler, let's look to the future a little bit. And we'll go 5 years, right? This feels like an impossible question, but we'll come back in 5 years, and if you got it right, gold stars for you. And if not, nobody will know. But if you look ahead, What do you think the biggest challenges are for security marketers in this, medium period of the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's interesting. When I became a CMO the first time, I've maybe had 3 jobs in marketing, a VP role and 2 CMO roles. I was never a line marketer, right? So the first role I had was a CMO role at a startup that sold for about $800 million. We ended up running that one up and doing a really good job of it. So I took everything down to first principles, right? Literally, because I didn't know what I was doing. It was like, hey, how do I do this? Well, let's start with this, right? So everything came down to first principles. And what I ended up doing was pushing the boundaries. I was one of the first people who did a cabana at Black Hat. I was one of the first people, I think I was the first person or first company to give away Yetis when they were just coming out, right? Because they were like $30 a pop. And people were like, God, that's so expensive. I'm like, yeah, but imagine the value provided and the brand impact. So, I think the key thing is somehow staying in front of and remaining unique in what you're putting out and providing value in that unique way. And here's the interesting thing, like, I'm afraid to go be a CMO one more time because I don't have that newbie mindset where I can just do stuff that seems off the wall because I've never done it before, right? I'll talk myself out of it sometimes because that shouldn't work. As I've done it for 10 years, that shouldn't work. But in reality, it does. So I think that the trick is being very aggressive and trying things and letting things fly. So if you want to succeed in the next 5 years, I would argue that the CMOs and the cyber companies that let stuff fly and say, hey, we're going to be who we are and we're going to be the bananas, whether it's because they're funny or whether it's because they're super technical or whatever it is, but we're going to let it fly and we're going to let it rip. Those are the ones that are going to stand out. Will they be successful companies? Maybe, maybe not. It highly depends on the tech, the product, the market, and other things, but their marketing should be highly successful.
The episode is called Cut the Noise, Ditch the Nonsense, Earn the Trust, and it dropped June 19th. Find it in your threat vector feed and hear why fear might be your biggest marketing risk.
Be sure to check out the complete episode of Threat Vector right here on the N2K CyberWire network or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And now a word from our sponsor, SpyCloud. Identity is the new battleground, and attackers are exploiting stolen identities to infiltrate your organization. Traditional defenses can't keep up. SpyCloud's holistic identity threat protection helps security teams uncover and automatically remediate hidden exposures across your users, from breaches, malware, and phishing to neutralize identity-based threats like account takeover, fraud, and ransomware. Don't let invisible threats compromise your business. Get your free corporate darknet exposure report at spycloud.com/cyberwire and see what attackers already know. That's spycloud.com/cyberwire. And finally, once again, the digital battlefield of the online military combat game War Thunder has been ambushed, not by tanks or jets, but by yet another overzealous forum poster waving around restricted military documents like they're Pokemon cards. This time, an enthusiast uploaded handling materials for the AV-8B and TAV-8B Harriers, which, while not classified, are marked for limited distribution. The documents earned him a temporary ban and a polite forum cleanup from the game's developer. It's not the first time, and certainly not the last. Similar leaks involving Russian tanks and U.S. armored vehicles have popped up before, each time greeted with the same weary sigh from moderators and military types alike. As one RAF engineer dryly noted, these aren't exactly earth-shattering disclosures, but rules are rules. And if history's any guide, someone will break them again by next Tuesday. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're conducting our annual audience survey to learn more about our listeners. We're collecting your insights through the end of August of this year. There's a link in the show notes. Please do check it out. N2K's senior producer is Alice Carruth. Our CyberWire producer is Liz Stokes. We're mixed by Trey Hester with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Gilpy is our publisher, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Did you know Active Directory is targeted in 9 out of 10 cyber attacks? Once attackers get in, they can take control of your entire network. That's why Sempris created Purple Knight, the free security assessment tool that scans your Active Directory for hundreds of vulnerabilities and shows you how to fix them. Join thousands of IT pros using Purple Knight to stay ahead of threats. Download it now at sempris.com/purple-knight. That's sempris.com/purple-knight.